And we are live, and a very good evening, everybody, to a Lyceum evening coming to you from the Paul Spiritualist Church down on the south coast of the UK. We've got a lovely gentleman who agreed very last minute. There was not going to be a Lyceum tonight because there was to be something in the church. That has had to change. And I thought I was going to have a night off, and then my conscience was pricking me. So the lovely Roy, who is a wonderful gentleman. We're very lucky to have him living so close by to the church as well. Very last minute. Roy, what are you doing? And here he is. And here's the cat. So, Roy, good evening, sir. Big warm welcome to you.
Good evening. Thank you very much. And it's always, happy to drop in and speak to anybody on your evenings and your podcasts. It's always fun.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Now, you've been a working medium we're in the 50th year, aren't we, with yourself, even though you don't look old enough. But...
Thank you very much. Yeah, the 50th year, yeah.
Yeah, and you regularly work UK and in Canada.
I do, yeah.
As well. How wonderful is that? You must have seen some real changes over the years in the movement, but also not just the changes, the things that don't change that really should change. We both saw a post, and I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of it today, from somewhere. And I saw you'd have commented on it, and I had my own comments on it, and I thought, do you know what? This doesn't change sometimes in our movement, does it?
No. It's actually surprising how many things don't change, and attitude is definitely one of them.
Yeah, terrible. Because we are coming now into that wonderful time of the year for churches and centres of the AGMs. Now, a lot of them will go well. A lot of them will just work as they should do, won't be any issues, yada, yada. But unfortunately, again, we get this, we are a recognised religion, but we don't have any, there are ministers within certain organisations associated with spiritualism. But in the whole, the churches and centres are run, and a lot of them are run really well by dedicated volunteers. I'm not out to change everything, but I do believe that we should constantly review what we're doing, how we're doing it, and is it still fit for purpose? And one of the things that often crops up, and especially this time of year when we get in the AGMs and you start seeing the little bones of contention popping up everywhere, is should we be doing an annual election of the people who run these churches? Shouldn't we be looking now, in line with some of the bigger organisations where your post is like 3-year term and things like that? What do you think?
I think that's a really awkward position to be in, because yourself, to get people to help you, to volunteer, to be a part of your committee, it's not an easy job. Right. With the greatest of respect to those that do it and that have done it before, we have to remember that this isn't just for 6 months. Every time we say, "Oh, that's it, I don't want to do it anymore," you've got to go through all those rigmaroles of finding the people, people that are like-minded to you, people that want the church to do better, instead of just somebody that says, "Oh, I'm on the committee," and does nothing else. And it's true to be said that you have to have people that are dedicated, and I don't know if the voting would work. I've seen it work with 1 or 2 churches that I'm still linked with, but even then, life takes over, doesn't it? You've got these lovely people saying, "Okay, I love it," and absolutely love what they're doing, but then family problems come up or other things come up, health, and they say, "Oh, I'm going to have to withdraw," And when I look at Paul Church, apart from the fact that I think sometimes you really need some help, you're doing everything, But at the same time, you're firmly in control. You've got some wonderful volunteers.
Yeah.
So should it be volunteers or should it be signed up? Should you vote? I don't know. It's a tricky line, I think.
Yeah, it is. And again, I'm looking at the pros and cons. So I'm not having a dig at committees.
No, not at all.
But as I say, we used to have a process in my career, which was called continual improvement. And once every 2 months, 3 or 4 of us would get together and we would pick certain processes we do just to look at it, not to go, oh yeah, we're going to change this as old fact, not in that energy at all. Just go, is it still fit for purpose? Does it need looking at? And it does strike me when you're looking at the committees of churches and centres, a lot of this format was laid down in like the 1920s and 1930s, when, with greatest of respect and not being disrespectful to anybody, there was a lot more people available with a lot more spare time and dedication to give. Well, we're coming up, that's nearly 100 years old now. Here now we are a charity and we're run by the trustees, which is great. Volunteers, we've got the hardcore of volunteers, which I'm eternally grateful for every time. But we've also got a bigger base of people that if something's coming up and I need a hand, I'll just ask. And people step forward, because I do see sometimes, again, not all the time, so I'm not lumping everybody into the same book, but sometimes the committee ethos gets a little bit stifling. When Paul Church was committee run many years ago, it used to be a thing, all right, people are going to argue health and safety and things like that, but you couldn't go in the kitchen unless you're on the committee. And I used to think, well, what sort of credentials do you need to operate a tea towel? Seriously. So all these things, we called a movement, and yet in some areas we seem to have just stuck.
Static.
Yeah, static in things. But overall, I mean, have you seen an improvement over the 50 years, or remained pretty much the same, or regressed?
Well, I think when I think back to how fond I was of the churches that I did, because I was very lucky, the people that I worked with, they were workers, everything was done. But we always found it was like personalities clash. That was, I think that was the worst part of it. That this isn't being done because she says she's not going to do it because that lady there's doing it, etc., etc. And one of my biggest beefs, no disrespect to anybody with their committees at all, none at all, but what I found, excuse me, what I found was that the medium was getting drawn into politics. That was one thing that really, really got to my goat. And I fell into the trap. Somebody did say to me one night, they didn't say there was a problem. They just said, oh, somebody's saying, so do you think so-and-so? And of course, you give your opinion. And then it's like, well, what are you to say this and who are you to say that? I mean, we were doing our best. I don't even know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's because they used it.
Also, later on, that's the same people will be going around and say, well, Roy said.
Exactly. And you won't win. You won't win because if you don't want to get involved, they say, oh, well, thank you very much. You've been serving this church for so many years. We thought we could help. But it's all internal. It's not like I'm saying the church has a problem. The problem is internal. Yeah. Excuse me. And that's what we've got to sort out. And I've literally gone from one room to another in a certain church that was going through all these political problems, and literally I was cornered in one side, and then as soon as they'd had their say, I came out and was grabbed by the other side and pulled into another room. And that's what I always remember. It's like, I don't want to get involved. You do a wonderful job, without you, we couldn't be doing the demonstrating, and vice versa, of course. And I just feel that in that way, I don't think the churches are changing, but I think they've become more welcoming.
Yeah.
I think they've become more welcoming. I've found that since I've moved here. There's no churches or anybody that I worked with the church that I don't love. I think they're great, and I'm getting on with them really well. And that. So when I go back to the earlier days, when I think how strict everything was, you didn't get a chance to say anything. It was like you got to do this, you got to do that. And that doesn't blend when you're working with the spirit world to try and bring love and information. And before you even start, they're saying, you're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to do that. And if you do that, we won't ask you back.
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I've had similar as well on my journey. Little things like, only 10 minutes of the address because they only want the mediumship. And it's just silly little things, and all the time, we as working mediums our awareness is spreading, our sensitivity is going up and increasing. And then suddenly you got somebody giving, I always remember, and I know I quoted this before, but it was just perfect. I walked into a church never been to before, and I was, I'm not being rude, I was eventually greeted after people were looking at me, and you could hear them saying, is that him? Oh, yeah, I think it is. Oh, yeah. Where's he cut? And talking about me, and I'm stood there like a spare what's at a wedding, thinking, hi.
I had the same thing, almost exactly the same thing as you. I got into the church a little bit early, and as I walked in, the ladies were standing to the right doing the hymn books, and I thought I'll introduce myself. So I said hello, and she said, "There you go, sit over there, and don't sit in the other seats because they're reserved for the committee, and don't sit on the end seat because the organist has to sit down afterwards." And I thought, okay, I'll play along with it. So I sat down just like you, and I sat down there, and I could see the people walking up, more and more people coming in, and then one of the I don't know whether it was president or vice president, was walking up and down. And then I heard her say to the lady on the hymn books, that's another one late. And then I was all suited up and everybody else was casual, shall we say. And she kept looking at me and I thought, are you going to click? Yeah. So she said, excuse me. She said, are you our medium? And I said, yes, I am. Well, would you mind speaking up and letting us know? We've been worried about. I said, but I was trying to say it. Oh, well, I wish you people would let us know when you're here.
I know.
Sorry.
I know. I do. I had a call from a booking secretary, and I had to be a little bit firm about, please don't talk to me like your employee. Please don't lay down the law. Please don't tell me how many times I'm going to do whatever. If you wish me to come and serve your church, I will. However, I am not going to conform to everything that you want from me.
Yeah.
Well, you're very snappy, aren't you? And I'm like, no, I'm just me. I'm individual. Just talk to me like a human being. Just say a quick hello to everybody. Lovely Julie Blue. Lovely Blue's moved to France. Amazing. People come to Paul Church and then they emigrate.
I like the picture.
Is that linked? Yeah, that is actually him. Wonderful Marion, Anne Hampton, Violet, all the way down under, the lovely Belinda. Wonderful Matt, another one who's come to church and then moved up country. Who's sensing a pattern here?
Yes.
Lovely Patrick and many more besides. So Deborah Rabbit, yes. Hi. So yeah, it's this is a side of mediumship people often don't see. And going back to this place where I went into where, they all stood there saying, yeah, I think that's him, yeah. But nobody actually making a move. And me being me, I'd just introduce myself in the end. I couldn't be asked to wait anymore. And one of the first things I said, oh, I see the committee are at each other's throats here. And this person just jumped down my throat. Who told you? Where did you get that from? And I'm like, nowhere. It's in your church. The minute you walked in, it's just there. You can feel that energy. Well, they won't do. And I said, listen, I get it. I've been on committees. I get it. People fall out. I said, but you need to progress it. You can't let it fester. And I'm always amazed that churches and centres sometimes will let situations sit there and fester.
Yeah.
Because especially, we're working with energy. We are working in that presence, in that power. And things like that really do have an impact. I was once told not to go to a certain person because we're trying to dissuade them from coming.
Yes.
And I'm like, we'll go and tell them.
Look at the love.
Yeah, for goodness sake. I'll tell them. Stop manipulating things to try to get your outcome and using everybody around. So, lovely. Belinda, grumpy old curmudgeons with nil customer service experience. That can sometimes be a very fair estimation. But again, it's very easy, isn't it? We can get drawn by the negative things. It just makes my heart sing when I go and work somewhere or attend a service somewhere, and you walk into a warm, welcoming environment with a good standard of demonstrators working there. It's just like, oh, this is great. This is what should be. Yeah. This is what we strive to do. Yeah, on the demonstrator, it's a very subjective view, isn't it?
Yeah.
Me and you could go and see a medium, come out, and I go, I didn't think much of that, and you say, well, I thought they were great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's always a difficult thing to sort of like gauge. So we go with our own personal feelings and keep personal feelings where they belong, personal. But yeah, just the basics. And as I say, there's a couple of churches in the area now over the last year or so, really sort of like up their game. And it's really noticeable when you walk in. It is a joy. It is absolute joy to go in and see them.
That is the perfect point. We can sense the minute we walk in through those doors how we are going to feel, because you'll either see a smile or, gone are the days, I think, where you go in and everybody just sits there quiet. These days you go in there, people will look up, they'll smile at you, they'll say good evening. And you kind of think, I can work with this energy. This is exactly what I need. And then you get the ice cube, don't you? And you just walk in and just, whoa.
Yeah.
Not sure about this.
Well, especially in this day and age, where everything is working to isolate everybody. I look at all these, I'm very sad. I look at all these Deliveroo bikes and Just Eat bikes and things like that whizzing around town all day, every day. And I always just think, do you know what? Every one of those bikes is somebody not coming into town. Is somebody not walking down the high street. All right, there's going to be people that need it because of whatever. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. But in the main, I went down and did shopping today. As you know, Paul is market day. So I visited the veg seller. I visited the meat seller. I visited somebody else. And you're out, you're meeting people, you're chatting. The people who run the stalls, they're great. You always have a good laugh and just acknowledgement. That's really important, because the guy from the meat wagon said, oh, hello, Laurie. And I was like, oh, okay. How did you know my name? Must have been looking at my card when I last gave it to you or something. But that really actually meant a lot, to be out and mixing with people. And in this world that we are now living in, that sense of community and sense of connection is a real bonus to our churches and centres. You know, you've been to Paul, and you know what it's like before the service. Everyone's nattering, or having a laugh and a joke, and saying hello, and catching up, and you know, all these and it just seems trivial, but as I said, the world now is just getting, you know, you can have your food delivered at home, you can have your eyes tested at home, you can have your exercise bike at home, and everything's sort of like cutting people off from socializing, from going out and being with other people. So yeah, the churches and centres, excuse me, in my estimation, this is a vital part of what we do now.
Totally. And we always have to remember that we know people love the church. We know they love to come into the demonstrations, but that point of they love coming because there's other people there, you know, and none of us know each other's problems or anything else like that. You know, I'm very lucky. I've got friends now around the area, not many, but I have, and I've got, if I go home, I've got everybody there. So it's not like I'm totally on my own, but I can get into a church sometime and I can feel who it is that has made that special effort because they didn't really want to go out. They were feeling lonely and they come out, and it made such a big difference. You know, we've got such an obligation to the congregation, if you want to call them the congregation, you know, to say, you're one of us. Yeah,
very much. You know, welcome in. Welcome. Make yourself comfortable. Lovely Deborah Rabbit. She says she welcomes everyone in, and she can find some church people can be so rude. Yeah, we're always going to have those. And again, it's a bit subjective, isn't it? Because I'm terrible. I'll look at people and go, hi, and other people I go, oh, no, this isn't going to work.
But then that's how sensitive you are. That's what we've attuned to be, you know, to be the way it should have been from the very start, as we can all feel each other and we know which ones we gel with and which ones we don't.
Yeah. But obviously you have the professional courtesy. I don't do that, but you just know.
Well,
you just know.
I can't remember. I mean, I can count on one hand how many times I've been into other churches over the years, and I've got the same sort of abuse as I walk through the front door of Paul Church. It's like, I'm sorry. There's that laughter as soon as I walk in the door. It's like somebody will say, "Do they know you're here?" Or they'll say, "Do they know you're out?"
Yeah. Oh, and it is very nice as well. You know, we got that sort of working relationship. Every now and then you'll knock at the door and you'll drop in for a coffee, and that's great.
Anything for a free coffee?
Yeah, I know. I've noticed my coffee bill has gone up exorbitantly. Anyway.
But also other things that I've seen change is, I need to be polite here. When I first started, as you were mentioning earlier, I was told what to do. You're not to do this. You're not to do that. We don't want you doing this. Please don't mention that. And you think, well, hang on a minute. You haven't left me much of me left. And when you get up on the rostrum, your mind is thinking, well, I can't do this and I can't do that. You know, there are some, and I respect them. Again, as I say, this is, you know, we're very respectful with this meeting. You know, we understand that everybody's different. But when you've got somebody saying to you, you're not allowed to use the Lord's Prayer. We don't use the Lord's Prayer here. Okay, that's fine. They forget that I've spent so many years starting with a prayer going on to the Lord's Prayer. And I can remember, as part of one of the things that I was caught up in was that I went straight into the Lord's Prayer. I didn't even realize what I'd done. Can I just say that everybody joined me? There wasn't anybody going, that everybody joined me. And the message I got, apart from one or two other things that I'd done wrong as well, was, I don't think we'll be inviting you back.
Oh,
and, you know, such a loss.
Yeah.
What's your loss? But allow the medium to do their job.
Yeah.
Allow the medium to know that they are being respectful, that their job is to bring that link between the material and the spirit world. That is what the church have asked you to come and demonstrate. So at least let us be ourselves, and don't say you shouldn't wear this, you shouldn't wear that. You know, let us be who we are, because that will bring in the best vibration and the best messages, the best demonstration that you'll get.
Yeah. Similar to you. When I first started out on platform, my go-to book was the Aquarian Gospel with the Christian background. And very quickly, obviously, I learnt with some organisations, they prefer if you didn't read that. And that was fine. I didn't mind that, because actually it pushed me to find other readings and talk about things slightly differently. So that side of it was absolutely fine. But I do bring into the training that we give here at Poole, part of the platform mediums training is about, you know, you will go to some places, they will not like this, they won't want that, you know, and you need to get that accord going before you go there, and just say, you know, what's your order of service? Find that out, for instance. And is there anything I should know? Is always a nice general question, you know, to get yourself ready. Because I do remember one church, and they asked me very last minute to cover an Easter service. And I did turn up with the Aquarian Gospel. And I said, listen, I know this is not in your remit, but it is Easter Sunday. And this reading is so apt for today. And they went, oh, that's fine. I went, oh, good. Great. Gave the reading. People enjoyed it. The next time I was back there, without thinking, I took the Aquarian Gospel. Did the reading and the address, and the response was, well, that's very nice, but we're not Christians in here. And I was like, oh, God. All right, that's fine. Yeah, won't do it again. Hands up, promise I won't. Not a good thing to say from the platform, but never mind. But yeah, it is being respectful and mindful, but also to the medium. Now, again, I know I can be a bit outspoken and look at things and just say it how I see it. And that's not being bossy or pushy. It's just how I see it. And if you see it differently, yeah, fine, we'll talk. But I do get sometimes with booking secretary that they can be very demanding about things. To the point I've had to let go a couple of bookings and just said, listen, I can't conform to what you want me to do. Yeah. And not only can I not, I will not.
I do find exactly the same line of thought as you're saying. Is I can remember, well, I'd only been working a few years, but it's like, you know, it's like with a new medium, everybody wants to book you.
Yeah.
You know, and I was kind of like booked 2 years in advance, because obviously these secretaries need to get you in the books. And I can remember I was actually going through my divorce at the time, and I was a bit in the dumps. And I rang one of these churches, and I said, I'm sorry, I won't be able to attend. I'm not 100%. I won't work unless I'm 100%. So if you'll forgive me on this occasion, I won't be able to show. And she said to me, well, this would have been booked 2 years ago. And I'm yes. Well, you know, do you realize how hard it is to get another medium? You know, and I'm thinking, excuse me, I'm trying to explain to you, I'm going through a divorce. I'm not in the right place. Well, I don't see what that's got to do with it. Oh. And I said, I think, to be honest with you, the best thing is that I say to you, thank you for asking me. I won't be coming back. You know, I do like to feel that everybody is being spiritual. And it may just be that lady was having a bad day.
Yeah.
It may be that was the only lady on the committee whose attitude is like that. Everybody else's is fine. But it has the effect on the medium.
Of course it does.
The things that we've been told, you know, whether it's a laugh or whether it's just rudeness, we do feel that, we are human, and we go away, unlike them, they go away and forget it 2 days later. Because of our sensitivities, we find 2 weeks later we're still going, yeah, but why did that happen? Why did she say that? Why did I feel like that?
Yeah.
And they cannot see further than their nose. Sorry.
Yeah. And also, the travelling side as well can sometimes be overlooked. I was booked to work somewhere about 50 miles away, and when I double checked on the trains, there had been severe disruption. There was a train that could get me there for the right time, but the services coming back down were all over the place. And I said, I'm really sorry. I know it's last minute, but this is last minute. What's gone on? I'm a victim. And I won't be able to make it. And then I got a call back about 10 minutes later and said, well, there is a train that will get you here. I said, yes, I have seen that. I said, but have you bothered checking the trains coming back home? Because I don't want to be stuck in a railway station for who knows how long, waiting for a train that may or may not exist.
Yeah.
There is the other side of it. We go, I've got to get home. Anyway, but we have this wonderful movement, religion, philosophy, whatever, we call it. And over the 50 years of... How did you get into this, Roy? That's always a question.
Well, actually...
Starting point.
My gran was a medium. The only way I knew of any way that she worked at all was I used to get asthma attacks. And my nan would come over 2:00 in the morning to give me healing, and give me a night's sleep sort of thing. So I had that start, but originally I was just dropping my mum off at a spiritualist church. I didn't want nothing to do with it. I really didn't. Mum would say, "Are you coming in?" And I said, "No, I'll come back and get you." And I remember saying, "But it's only going to be an hour. By the time you get home, it'll be time to come back." So I went in there and I sat in the corner thinking, if they can't see me, head down, the old Mac and the hat sort of thing. And it was a bit weird, really. I didn't get a message or anything. It was just that the lady that my mum was sitting with was a medium. And she was apparently talking about me through the service. And when the service was over, I got up to go and pick my mum up at the end of the aisle, and she said, "Who's this?" So she said, "That's my son." And the medium said, "That's who I've been talking about all this time." And of course, Mum's going, "What, Roy?" Basically, it went mad from there because she asked me to go to her meditation circle. After a few months of doing that, we went to a trance circle. And I remember that very clearly because the gentleman came over to the one of us from her circle and said, "Nobody here is to go into trance. This is totally controlled." Blah, 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 and said everything. And I thought, well, there's no way I want anything to do with it. I'm just interested. And then after a few minutes of everybody getting ready, suddenly my heart was going mad and I didn't know what was going on. Anyway, to cut a long story short, they were linking with me or giving me that experience. From there, the ladies passed me on to this lady, Madge Summerfield, took me on, and in the end, that's where I was. I'd been through so many circles. None of them lasted long because it was like, you need to be in that circle. You need to be in that circle. And all the time they said that, I'm going, what? Me? You sure? This is just an ordinary lorry driver that doesn't know what he was doing.
Yeah.
But once I got up on the rostrum, I loved it. I've always had the saying, if I can give a tear or a smile, I've done my job. And to see people smile, and when people come back and say, I've waited 7 years to hear that from my husband, it's like, even you go, wow. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We've always got to remember the miracle of what we do. And I don't use that word lightly.
It's the right word, though.
We are talking to dead people. And culture, society says once you're dead, you're dead. But we don't. And it is, it's just such a privilege at times when you're working as a medium to bring and be a part of that.
Yeah.
Be a part of that miracle, and this is where it's a very fine line, isn't it? We need an ego to stand up on a platform in front of people, but it's when the ego becomes egotistical that's when we start to see things go slightly awry.
I am so passionate about certain things. How is it all come together when one night I was working at Sutton Church many years ago, and we'd already done the demonstration, and I went to sit down, and this little boy came from the spirit world, gave me his name, and he said, I want to talk to my mum. So I thought, okay, well, they were ready to move on to the next thing in the church. And I said, well, can you just give me 1 minute? So I got up and I said, I've got Josh here. I use that name because that's the one I made up for him because I didn't want to put it in the book. I said, I've got Josh here. He wants to talk to his mum. And then the little one really started talking. And he was saying, it was the fire. I didn't get out of the fire. And mum is so upset. Mum's not talking to anybody. And at the end, I said to her, is there anybody that can take this? And nobody said anything. And I thought, okay, I've got to cross wire somewhere. Yeah. And before I sat down, this lady stood up. She said, it's not for me, but I know his mum. And then she started getting welled up and everything. And she said, she is in a terrible, terrible place, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, can you pass the message on that Josh came through and whatever else was mentioned? She did that. And the lady then made a private reading, and it was just, wow. I talk about privilege to do this job.
Yeah.
Miracle is the only word. How can you say to this little boy, he's coming from somewhere knowing that maybe this medium will say what you tell him to say, and that he's coming even with mum not there, but can somebody get a message to mum?
Yeah.
And it does.
One of the things I always say at the beginning of the services here at Paul, never forget, today's service is because of your presence. Exactly. This is the intelligence of spirit. I'm hoping you're going to agree to this. If not, I've just noticed the lighting. I look like Cruella de Vil, but honestly, my hair is black all over.
Not as bad as mine, though.
Yeah, no, your hair looks great. That not every medium can work with everybody.
True.
So how come we don't have services where we can't work with anybody in there?
Because I say it's just like pre-planned, isn't it? It's like
exactly
somebody at home is saying, I'm not going to church tonight. And then somebody might ring up and say, oh, I'm going to church tonight. Shall I pick you up? Yeah. And when they go, they get a brilliant message and they say, but I wasn't even coming to church tonight.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the miracle. It is a miracle. I get so passionate about it because it is a miracle.
Yeah.
When people sit in front of you, whether it's in church or a private reading, they're going, that's a miracle.
Yeah.
And I defy anybody to say it's not a miracle because it's not anything of this world.
It's nice to reinvigorate that into people because with over the last 25, 30 years of just endless demonstrations of mediumship, there's some places and some people have a bit of an air of complacency that me, you, or any other medium can just suddenly get up and just give out stuff and it's going to be understood. Well, yeah, we can, because already the intelligence of spirit has made sure that we are the right medium for the right people in the right place at the right time. Yeah. It is so hard to explain that to people, that all this is preordained.
Yeah.
I always remember years and years and years ago, there was, when I was the treasurer here, I was just pottering around in the morning, and there was this beautiful bunch of chrysanthemums on a chair that I saw. Real deep, vibrant red, absolutely stunning. And I thought, well, that'd be interesting. Sue sits at that chair at the service this afternoon. So we opened up, people were coming in, people sitting down, nobody sat at that chair. And I thought, okay, that's odd. And then about 3:10, a lady came in. One of the ladies on the door let her in, and she said, "I'm so sorry, the bus and everything." And she went, that's right, go and sit down. And she sat on that chair. And I thought, oh, good. So we had the den, nothing. And I thought, well, I'm not going to let that go because it was so vivid. So I said to her, I said, sorry, my love, would you understand why on that chair this morning there was this bunch? And I said, and I know they're show chrysanthemums because they were just so perfect, you know, the real big incurve ones. And she went, that's all I wanted. It's my husband's anniversary this year. He used to regularly get gold medals up at Chelsea for his chrysanthemums. And I just thought, wow, all these things have all come together just for that moment.
Exactly. It's all preordained, isn't it?
Yeah.
But even after the amount of years you've done it, and the amount of years I've done, I'm sure there are many, many, many other mediums the same. When something happens and we can go, wow.
Yeah.
How do I explain that?
Yeah.
You know, and people do, don't they? They come to, how did you know that? How did you, you know? And I think of Keith Charles's book. You know, the answer really is I just knew.
Yeah. It just comes in. Quick catch up with everybody online. Deborah Rabbit, where were you? She was saying here, this is interesting. I only read for people from home. I could never stand up in a church full of people. There's a lot of, the old term used to be, and this is not disrespectful, Deborah, kitchen sink mediums. Mediums who would work from home and do readings, have never advertised. It was always done by word of mouth. And do you know what? Some of those mediums were absolutely exemplary in what they could present from the other world. Absolutely. I'm intrigued because I'm just nosy, Deborah. Why would you not stand up in front of a church if you want to share that? That's just me being nosy. Because I get this with where we do training here at church. That is often a big stumbling point for people actually standing up in front of other people. Some people get over it and some people don't, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. But it is always, my background is in hospitality, so, you know, I'm used to being behind the bar, being in charge out front. So that is my environment. So I've got that presentation skill. But I do realise you came from being a lorry driver, didn't you, Roy?
Yeah. I also went into care for 16 years. Sorry, I didn't go into care. I worked in care for 16 years. And I think that improved my mediumship because I was learning. We had to create lessons for these people, you know, to keep them happy and to learn things. And I used to have to produce these, the words gone out of my head, projects, if you like. And I was not used to it. My only experience was get off the lorry, get that signed, mate. Thanks very much, I'm off. But when you're actually in front of people all the time, you are presenting, and I think that really helped me in my mediumship to come away from the lorry driving into that and say you can stand up in front of anybody and do it. But that still doesn't mean that when I stood up, I wasn't as scared as anything.
Yeah, and I always say to mediums, no matter how many years you've done this, how many times you've worked on the platform, if you are not nervous when you get up there, something's not right.
Yeah.
You've got to have that slight You know, when I'm chairing at pool, people say, we make it look easy. But beforehand, and especially when new trance mediums are coming, because every time we have a medium comes who's going to do a trance address, whether it's planned or not, by about 8:30 in the morning, Lawrence is running around like he's had 14 Americanos, neat. All right, Deborah, thank you, darling. So then I feel more comfortable.
That's the answer.
Yeah, absolutely. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that at all. And you know what, Deborah? A lot of people are more comfortable going to somebody's home to have a reading, because especially, the difference between what is a public demonstration message and what is a private sitting message. When I first started, I didn't like private sittings. I didn't like them at all. And I used to help out at church fairs and fetes, doing the readings. And it was torture for me. I just didn't like them at all. But now I absolutely love private sittings, because that level that you can go into much more easier. You can't do it from the platform. You've got to be mindful of time. If you're up there and you're working with somebody for about 25 minutes, then you've got a lot of people who are starting to get very antsy in the energy that you're trying to use.
Yeah.
And you can't go into the depth either too much. We've always got to be that considerate when we put things over. There was a demonstration recently in the area, and somebody came back and said it was absolutely awful because this person was describing how this person passed, and it was very graphic and really unnecessary. And then to round it off, saying, well, that wouldn't have happened if somebody had been there to help them. And it's like, oh my God. How awful is that?
There's a bit of a mix-up there, isn't there, between what the job you're doing and where your mind enters. You kind of, I'm going to say it politely, dragged it on a bit.
Yeah.
If you're asking, I mean, we all work differently, but if you're saying, hey, yeah, that's great. Can you give me a little bit more on that? And they give you a little bit and say, yeah, but what was the reason you passed? You're actually creating a conversation that they don't want.
Yeah, exactly. And as I say, we've just got to be very respectful, not only to the sitter, to the spirit world as well.
Totally.
I did an online dem a little while back, and I spoke to the lady afterwards. I said, because there was quite a few mediums in the room, and I thought, okay, fair enough, they're people. But with every medium, there was a guide influence stepping in. And I contacted this lady the next day and just said, I hope you didn't mind where the guides were coming in. And again, if I get a guide coming in, I want the evidence from them. I can't be doing this. Oh, you've got this with you. You got that with you. That's not good enough. Our job is to give evidence.
Yeah.
So if I've got a guide energy, number one, I know that you are developing or developed your mediumship. Number two, and it leads on from there. Why am I talking about this? Anyway, I just had a blonde moment then. Everything dropped out. Yeah, but on a private sitting, you can really get your teeth into it.
Because they know it all and nobody else is listening.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And and again, you do have a decorum. You do, you'll get something coming in and you'll go, are you all right if I continue with this?
That's it, yeah.
Because it is about you.
Yeah.
The spirit wants to speak, but today you might not be in the right frame of mind. Tomorrow you might be, but today you might not be. And you know what? I've never had anybody say, no, I don't want to go on.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
They're waiting for the next bit.
Yeah. Lovely Anne Sprague Joyce. I always said I could never chair in my church. 12 years later, guess what? I'm chairing. So never say never.
I remember Anne. And I remember when we used to chat many years ago, and still up to today. And I can remember how far she's come. Sorry, Anne, I hope you don't mind me saying, but it was just like you were there to do what you had to do, but you were not going to go any further. And I can remember actually saying to you, well, I'm sorry, but if you've started this, you won't be going backwards. And here you are now, virtually running the church with your people, and so welcoming you as well.
We had a lady down from London for one of the 5-day courses a couple of years ago. And we were talking, and I said, you do know that you're going to end up running a church? She went, no, I'm never, ever doing that. She contacted me about 2 months ago and went, guess what? Guess what? I am now the president of. And I went, told you. Because, yeah, we're the ones that live, and we do this in our mediumship as well, don't we? We limit the other world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I always...
When you do see, sorry, my fault. When like you were saying, and I was saying that Anne had sort of been one way, and now she's come to the other way. It's not like you're saying you're going to do it, but you have this option, and these options will come your way. And I think it just opens them right up. I just think it's brilliant.
Yeah, it is. You know, the developmental path that you can achieve through your churches and centres is immense. Not focusing on the evidential mediumship for healing. Healing mediums are just amazing people. Because me and you, we get up on a platform, you would understand X, Y, Z, and the sister goes, yes, I do. Result. Yeah. Package done up. Thank you. Next one. Healing mediums just continue to give and to give. Obviously, when you're new in the healing ministry, it's very easy to have this ideal that, somebody's going to come to you, have healing, throw away their crutches, run out of the church, clicking their heels in the air as they go. But unfortunately, at times, you've got to get used to the fact that sometimes people come to you for healing, but that natural evolution of the soul, that natural progression means that, they're going to pass the spirit. But I always say to people, you don't know how hard that journey could have done if they had not had healing. It's one of those, you can't quantify it.
Again, it's that miraculous side of things, isn't it? That, you're helping them on the journey. You may not be able to feel that, they're not long of this world. But to know that they come back regularly and they've always got a smile on their face when they come back because they love their healing.
Yeah.
The better place you're taking them to is amazing.
Yeah, definitely. And lovely Deborah, yes, my condolences to you, Deborah, and saying she'd love her daughter to come through, but it only happened once on a reading with Colin Fry. That is a common thing, isn't it? A lot of people say this, that they would like somebody to come through and they just don't. What's your thoughts on that?
Sorry, could you repeat that last bit?
We often get a sitter would say, I've never heard from whoever, and why is that? Because that's always an interesting question to answer. Yeah,
really very hard question to answer as well. I mean, I think with some people, this is just my view. With some people, if you're being asked to bring a certain person in, which we know we cannot do, we can only ask them to send their thoughts before a reading and see what comes in. But we don't know what effect that soul coming through, say for the first time, would be on the recipient that you're giving the reading to. It might be absolutely happy, brilliant, love it, really. But sometimes, being humans, people can hit the depths. Because they've heard. It's just like, I believe now that he's living on, but I now want to be with him, and that's a very sensitive subject. I would say, personally, I would say keep trying until you find somebody you gel with.
Yeah.
Because that makes a hell of a difference.
And just be ready for the surprises, Deborah, because often these things just come out of the blue.
Yeah, and for the signs around you that we kind of brush off as nothing. If somebody comes in, they're talking to you out the blue, and they just give you a bit of information, you think, oh God, that's the same as my son was. What's the same as my son was? How do you know this isn't your son? Maybe there's more information coming in once you accept this bit and that bit. Yeah, it's very hard to deal. I mean, crikey, you run the classes on it. But it's very hard to deal with grief, and sometimes grief, I believe, is like building a brick wall.
There is an element of that with some people, yeah.
And if you can just help them to break through a few bricks, then maybe everything else will just fall, and you'll get what you need. But it is always a case of what we need, not what we want.
And again, Deborah, we are being very sensitive to you.
Yes, definitely, with respect.
But sometimes, and we're not saying this applies to you, this is a general conversation. Sometimes having communication with somebody who has passed can actually short circuit your grieving process. And I'm sure you've had this, Roy, where you've walked through a communicator and somebody's overjoyed and you've got that euphoria of that moment of the message, but then that quickly passes over a few days. And then before you know it, within a few weeks, the same people are saying, can I come back? I want another sitting.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, that's not a healthy thing, because you're just living in that euphoria, which gets shorter and shorter each time, because part of the grieving process is, a friend of mine described it to me once, and it made a lot of sense. He said, you know what, when you're grieving, he said, it's like this box in your mind. It's constantly open, and it's right in front of you, and wherever you look, it's always there. You said, in time, you learn to put the lid on that box and put it to one side and choose to go there. And I thought, yeah, that is
good way of putting it, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's very true. You comment there, lovely Deborah. Grief is love. Of course it is. Of course it is. It is. And I feel very, very strongly that, that communication will take place. And I also feel really strongly that it will be unusual the way it happens. It won't be like you go into a den wanting it to happen and it happens. It's going to happen. And I really do feel out of the blue. So when that happens, can you let us know, please?
Yeah, because we've seen it so many times.
We're a very international crowd tonight. The Reverend Ron Cox on. Good evening, Mr. Cox. Yeah,
I do. Going back to what you were saying a moment ago about you sometimes. Sorry, you sometimes go. You sometimes set light to a firecracker, and they want to keep coming back, and they want to keep coming back. And I went through a stage in my work where I wasn't sure how to deal with it, and I know that they hadn't taken the full part of the reading, because they were so involved with the one or two pieces that mattered to them. The rest didn't matter. And they would say, oh, is it all right if I book up for next week? And I've said, no, I can't do that. You haven't listened to the rest of the reading as well. You need to let your brain take in what has been said and what has been shown to you, apart from what you wanted. And it was only then that the guide said to me, you need to set a time for these sort of things. And we were having a chat, and I said, well, I can't see you for 3 months, because you have to let some things come to light. You have to take the darkness and bring it in with such a light that you say, oh, well, that was actually with him as well, but I wasn't looking at that. And those people, by all means, come back after 3 months But of course, people, you know yourself, sometimes, and this is a funny way to put it, I'm sorry, but sometimes people can become like an addiction.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, that's
and we have to deal with that addiction as much as they have to deal with that addiction. So if we can come back in 3 months, then they're in a different frame of mind, even if it's only for a short while. But I would say to people with the greatest of respect, you know, I love my work and I only want to do what I can that is right for people. But I would say, you know, listen to not just the information that is about the person, but listen to the whole reading. You know, look at the little bits where you might be able to say, oh, actually, that's silly. That was just about something or other in the kitchen. I was just telling him off, and then one of the sauces fell out of the dishwasher or something like that. Excuse me, you're missing this.
Yeah.
Yes, there's going to be the occasional times when, you've dropped the saucer, but that's a good way of saying they did it. But you will notice things. And in that 3 months, you will have more clarity. And then you might even find that after 3 months, you think, actually, I could go another 3 months now without thinking about it, or another 6 months.
Well, grieving is, you know, that some of the terminology used is called letting go.
Yeah.
And yeah, I always remember I lost my mum and dad very close together. And these weren't dreams.
Visitation.
My definition is a dream. The next day you can't remember it.
Yep.
When you've actually had an encounter,
yep.
It doesn't matter when you think about it, you're there.
100%.
And I kept walking into the living room and my mum and dad were sat there. And every time my first reactions was, oh my God, what are we going to tell everybody? What are we going to tell everybody? You're back.
You're back.
No wonder they stopped coming to see me. Sorry, mum and dad.
I love it. I love it.
But that was, you know, almost a daily occurrence that I would have those. And that went on for about a couple of weeks. And then it declined. And now, when I look back on it, I can see the logic there. I can see the logic. You know, it was a big shock, not only to lose me mum, but to lose me dad as well. It was just like, what the hell? And my dog. And it was just like, that was not a good 10 weeks.
No.
So I could see, you know, the one side from spirit being there to comfort. And of course, mum and dad, who else is going to comfort you? We had a very good relationship. I can also see the decline in the meetings because it was a temporary salve for me.
Yeah.
It was this temporary salve which needed, it was a bit like, you know, taking the plaster off and letting the wound heal then.
They had this preparation for you already planned. How are we going to bring him to the point of not so much acceptance because we know they're gone, but acceptance in the sense of the grief. And if we can just give him a little bit every now and then, a little and often, you're going to be more comfortable because you know they'll be back one day. They'll come in a couple of months' time, or I'll see them sitting by the door or something like that. And they know what's best for you as they know what's best for us.
Yeah.
You know, so that's a brilliant way, isn't it? Like the working out between the two of them. Well, we better go back and keep an eye on him because he'll only go off the rail. You know, and they'll be nice and gentle with you, but there'll be a firm message in there as well. And because they've soft things for you, the harshness is just goes away.
Yeah, very true. My mum, whenever somebody says, I've got your mother here, I think, oh God, what have I done wrong?
I can remember getting her one night when I was on the rostrum, and it was so lovely to cut the way she came in. As the love was perfect, but it was like your eyes rolled straight away and you said, oh, what have I done?
Yeah.
And I would love to know what her answer would have been to that.
Yeah. Where would you start? Interesting comment here from Dorothy. I binge on people in a non-stalking way. That's good to hear, Dorothy. Thank you. And then spirits show me other people to see too. So I'll take it from that. You're talking about mediums here, are you, Dorothy? So you'll go, yeah, I get that. I do get that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you're saying is you'll see a medium who will take your attention, and then any opportunity to see them working, you'll go and see them, and then somebody else will come along and grab the attention. I think that's what you're saying there. Correct me if I'm wrong. Ooh, 2 Revs in tonight. We've got the Reverend Ashley Oliver in as well. Hello, darling. I hope you're well. Must catch up. We haven't seen each other for ages. So, 50 years.
Yeah.
Do you regret it, or do you think, you know what, this is part of the reason I'm here?
A bit of both, I think. I don't think the word regret is too strong. I've learned, and sometimes I draw back for a while. I don't put myself out there for months, sort of thing, or I'll just turn up when somebody needs somebody at the last minute. One thing I do know, and this is going to sound like sour grapes, and it really isn't, and that is when you've booked up something for a year ago or 2 years ago with the church, and then when it comes to the day, it's like, you didn't know that it's so-and-so's 60th birthday and it's going to be a big family gathering. Yeah. There's going to be a big barbecue. Everybody's going to be there. And you say, I can only stay for about 2 hours because I've got to get to so-and-so. And they say, well, can't you cancel it? Well, it doesn't work that easy because number one, I don't like cancelling. And number two, it's like there is some sort of loyalty because you did book this. But yeah, you do start missing some of the everyday life. As these people that go out and work every week will find out, to me, and I hope the spirit world will accept this and forgive me for saying so, but I tend to think sometimes, well, I've done my bit. It doesn't hurt for me to say no to this one because I'm going out there and I'm doing this and I'm going out there. I'm kind of been told through feeling, through sensitivities, it's time to start picking up your life again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I said to you a little while ago, for some reason, my confidence was feeling knocked. And I was asking the spirit world what was going on, and I was trying to sort my own life out. And I just felt that, do you know what, I can't go and do a church next week. I can't go in because of this lack of confidence. Then I said to them, if I'm not supposed to be doing it, fine, I'll stop. Then all of a sudden, my private readings went through the roof. The phones kept going and everything else. And I was saying to people, where do you get my name from? Oh, this and that. But what I found was, whether it was a little present or not, but what I found was those readings were so accurate. I was gobsmacked. I mean, it was coming out of my gob, but obviously I didn't know what was coming on. And then 2 days later, you got 3 other people that have related to that person. And they all, oh, you give such a good recognition from people in the spirit world. We want to, it's like, come on, this is like spirit giving you something with one hand and taking it away with the other. It's a child thing, isn't it?
Included in the training here, I really emphasize with the aspiring mediums about balance. Because we say about, somebody come up to me, I want to be a platform medium. Well, really? So you want to work 40 out of the 52 Sundays of the year, do you? Because that's the pitfalls of it. It is about balance. You're better off doing 2 a month or 1 a month than being happy. And I always say to mediums, when somebody phones up and say, can you do? And I do this myself now. I'll say, can I get back to you?
Yes.
Because we're pleasers, aren't we? We are the world's worst at saying yes. Can you do so? Yes, that's our wedding anniversary. Oh, bugger. Oh, well, I've said yes now.
I sometimes think back to that lady that said to me when I was getting divorced about, well, that's a bit much. Like, we had booked you 2 years ago and everything. I wondered if the cases I had passed on, whether she'd have been in the same attitude. Somebody said, "Oh, I'm afraid he's passed on." Well, he didn't let us know. He could have let us know because
well,
and
that shouldn't stop him.
We can work from the other side.
Yeah,
you work from the other side.
Lovely, Reverend Ashley. Saying to you, we thank you for your integrity to try your utmost to protect the booking, Roy, but the life of service does mean a juggling act with life, and it is keeping an eye on the balance, isn't it? Yeah.
It is, definitely. And we've all done it. I mean, I've done the same as you, Lawrence. Maybe sometimes I've done 3 in a week, 3 services in a week. And then somebody might ring you for another day and they've been let down. And you do think,
or you might go into a new church and sit in the congregation, and then 5 minutes later you're up on the platform, Roy.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lawrence. Yeah,
that's right.
Does kind of come in. Yeah. I've lost track of how many times you've watched me and gone, do you want to come up here? No, I'm having me 5 minutes.
That's all right. I know, you said about the confidence thing, so I'd like to give you that opportunity. And I know what it's like as well, because sometimes you can just sit in the service and without realizing, without the intent, you're just sort of like tuning in. You're going, oh, okay, this is interesting.
That's spot on what you saying about, come up on the rostrum, because you said it earlier on. You can go and sit in the church and be quiet, and there's always one of the members of the committee walk around and they're going, all right, and you go, yes, thanks. Medium's not turned up yet. So I'm having me 5 minutes, and then they'll come back and they go, Roy, if they don't turn up, is there any chance you could yeah, okay. And then luckily at the last minute, the person will come in and they've been rushed and caught in traffic or something else. Yeah. Thank you, but you didn't have to push me that far.
Yeah. Dorothy got back and said yes, binging on mediums to watch. And in today's world, I mean, that's very noticeable with some of the online services. We did one here. It's a charity night online, and we were all in the breakout room beforehand talking. And one of them just said somebody's name and said, they'll be in, who's going to do their message? And I said, oh, well, that'll be so-and-so. And we couldn't see the room. And sure enough, we joined the room, and sure enough, they were in there. And sure enough, the medium, I said, got the link, and they went, yes, that's...
I love it when you were talking about, don't go to that person. We're trying to get them out of the church or something like that. Because you have that same feeling where you come in and they'll say to you after the service, we were so praying you wouldn't go to so-and-so and so-and-so. I say, why's that? Oh, she'll put her hand up for anything. She'll say yes to anything. She'll be there every time. Any message comes in, she puts her hand up. And I say, how do you know it doesn't relate to her in some way?
Yeah.
It might be that's why she's listened to one little thing. That's me. It's a bit like a bingo caller, isn't it? They listen to the number and then there's the number. Oh, I'm in there. But I can't say, yes, there are people that you've gone to and they're going, oh, no, that. And you say, can I hear your voice a little bit better so I can get a nice vibration? Well, I don't think that. I haven't got anybody in the spirit world.
Yeah.
Okay. How did you manage to immaculate conception or and then you can give information. They go away. You don't know no better than there was a lot of no's there. And then somebody that was sitting with her will come up and say, you got Bert there and he was so. She doesn't like talking about him, but she likes him coming in. And she gave me the information that the other lady taken away with her. But as the lady said about binging, sometimes people are binging on the messages.
Yeah, well, certainly. And at the end of the day, that might. We had a medium here once, a few years ago now, and getting ready to come out and do the service. And they just said, they're there in the mirror, got the jacket on, doing the tie-up. And I went, I don't know what it is, but I just feel every time I work, this is how I should dress, smartly like this. And I said, well, you never know. I said, you might be the first person to talk to somebody in there for a week. You might be the last person that talks to them. So you always do that with the greatest of respect. And we will get the people that will always put their hands up. But there is a need there.
We don't know the answers.
No, we don't. We've got no idea. These people are in the church in front of us. We don't know where they've come from, what they're going back to, how they're living, what's going on in their life. It's none of our business. We're just there to do our job. Yeah. Lovely, Reverend Ashley. Do you think that there is something there for me about the need to be seen and acknowledged? It is a way for healing to get through to at times. I guess it's all down to the discernment of the medium. Do you think that there is something there for me about the need to be seen and acknowledged? Yeah, I think what we're talking about there, when you say about, they'll put their hands up to anything, because there is that need to be acknowledged. There is that need to be recognised, to be spoken to. And again, you don't know what background these people are coming from. You don't know what their home life is like or whatever. And if that's their bit of comfort and their bit of joy, that's fine. What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
And again,
I think we're respecting in Ashley's work that she does. She does such a vast range of things, services, etc. That's something that people do need you there for.
Yes.
And it's very easy to say, oh, so and so is a good medium, but you need to put yourself out there, and you need for people to understand who you are as a person, to understand whether or not they gel with you, even when you're given a message. I'm the same. When we did the COVID and everything was done online, it was such a test to me, and I was acting like a child. It was like, I'm never going to be able to do that online. No way I'm going to be able to do that. That's a bit way out, And of course now 90% of my private readings are done online. So I think that's a lovely need, Ashley. I think, if that's where you're happy, then you are spreading happiness.
Yeah, very true. Very true. It's interesting as well, because you mentioned the COVID era, and it was lovely Ashley who contacted me and said about, what do you think about going online? And we started off on this platform, good old StreamYard, which we quickly found out is absolute rubbish for a mediumship because of the time lag. But it's a great way to keep in touch and talk with people. Roy, thank you so much for agreeing to be here tonight. It saves me having to inflict an hour of my dirge at people. So everybody there, be grateful to Roy.
Thank you.
And you're with us live next Sunday. Sunday.
30th, yeah.
Yes. And where we're going to have something slightly different, not the standard divine service, but we're going to have cream teas because it is Mothering Sunday. So there's a much more sociable. I like the look on your face, Roy. You're going, what the hell am I volunteering for now?
When you asked me to do it, I thought, I don't even know what we're doing.
I'm not quite sure yet.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
But it will unfold, and I know it will go really, really well.
It's always fun. Fun.
And again, it's a community. It's bringing people together, especially on Mother's Day. If Mother's here or Mother's here in spirit, you know what? It's just a way of giving back as well. So thank you, Roy. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for listening, whether that's live online tonight or in the future sometime on catch up. You're more than welcome. We will be back live next Saturday. Oh, good. I'm allergic to cats. Get out. Be gone. Yeah. Next Saturday at 7 o'clock GMT. In the meantime, it's a big thank you from me and
thank you from me.
There we go. So good night, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.